Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if kids around the world draw the same things in the same way? Today we're diving into a really cool study that looked at how children's drawings change as they grow up, and surprisingly how those drawings might be similar or different across countries. Imagine looking at thousands of drawings from kids in the USA, China, Kenya, and India. What could all those scribbles and lines tell us about how children understand the world and how that understanding develops? So, the big question here is whether kids' understanding and drawing of common objects is pretty much the same everywhere, or if growing up in different places leads to really different ways of seeing and drawing the world. Scientists have noticed that as kids get older, their drawings get more detailed and recognizable. They also think that how kids draw isn't just about their wobbly hands getting steadier, but about them knowing what makes an object unique. But most of the research on this has been done in places like the US. This new study wanted to see if those patterns hold up in very different parts of the world. To figure this out, the researchers collected over 4,000 line drawings from children aged 4 to 9 years old. These drawings came from 4 different locations: San Jose in the USA, Beijing in China, Kisumu in Kenya, and Delhi in India. The kids were asked to draw the same 12 everyday objects. So, we're talking about a big, diverse collection of children's art. Now, how do you scientifically compare drawings? These researchers used some pretty clever tech. They turned each drawing into a digital image and then used a special computer program called Clip. Think of Clip as a super smart art critic that can understand how similar or different images are. They used it to turn each drawing into a set of numbers, a kind of digital fingerprint. This allowed them to compare the drawings very precisely, not just by looking at them, but by looking at their underlying numerical representations. With these digital fingerprints, they calculated a few key things. First, they created a representational dissimilarity matrix for each drawing location. This matrix essentially shows how similar or different the drawings of each object category were from each other within that location. It is like mapping out the relationships between the drawings. Second, they looked at how much variation there was within each category's drawings at each site. And third, they measured how recognizable each drawing was. Recognizability here meant how well the computer program could guess which object the drawing was supposed to be based on its digital fingerprint compared to the name of the object. And what did they find? Well, here is where it gets interesting. Across all 4 countries, the recognizability of the drawings definitely got better as the children got older, which makes sense. But the really surprising part was that the overall map of how the object categories related to each other in the drawings was surprisingly similar across all 4 locations, even though the drawings themselves might look a bit different. The underlying structure of how kids grouped and separated these objects in their minds, which they then expressed through drawing, was largely the same. Now, they did find some subtle differences. When they compared pairs of locations, most of them showed that the drawing structures weren't exactly identical. These differences, the researchers found, were mostly linked to how recognizable the drawings were in the first place. Think of it like this: if kids in one place are generally drawing things that are harder to recognize, their whole drawing system might look a bit different just because of that lower clarity. To test this idea, they did a clever thing. They created a balanced set of drawings where they tried to match drawings from different sites based on their recognizability. When they did this, many of the structural differences between sites seemed to disappear. This suggests that a big chunk of what made the drawings look different across places was simply how clear they were, rather than fundamentally different ways of thinking about the objects. Another key finding was about development. As children got older, their drawings became even more similar to each other across different countries. This is super important. It means that while there are some early differences, as kids gain more experience and knowledge, they seem to converge on a more universal way of representing the world through their drawings. This convergence was especially noticeable between places where the drawings were generally less recognizable. It's like, as they all get better at drawing, they start to speak the same visual language more and more. But it is not a perfect overlap. Even after accounting for recognizability, a few specific objects, like rabbits, trees, and cats, still showed noticeable differences in how they were drawn across cultures. This hints that there might be some truly site-specific influences, perhaps related to what the kids see every day, local cultural symbols, or even local artistic conventions. But these specific differences were smaller than the overall similarities. So what does this all mean? The study suggests that at the fundamental level, children in very different parts of the world share a lot of common ground in how they understand and represent objects visually. Their drawings, while unique, often follow similar patterns of organization. As they get older, these patterns become even more aligned. The differences we do see are often related to how clearly they can draw things, rather than a completely different way of thinking. However, there are still these intriguing whispers of cultural influence on how specific things are drawn. This is exciting because it tells us something fundamental about human development that might be universal. It also opens up questions about those specific differences. What makes drawing a rabbit different in Delhi versus San Jose? Is it exposure to different breeds of rabbits, different ways we talk about rabbits, or even different cartoon characters representing them? Exploring these nuances could tell us even more about how culture shapes our understanding of the world and how we express it. This study is a fantastic example of using technology to explore very human questions about development and culture. It shows that while we are all unique, there is a lot of shared experience and understanding that connects us, especially as we grow and learn. It highlights the power of drawing not just as an art form, but as a window into the developing mind. What do you think about these findings? Do you see cultural differences in the way children draw in your community? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this dive into the science of drawing and development, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more fascinating research explained simply. We'll see you next time.